Think of the people you interact with every day. Would you want to spend a day in a canoe with them? This show is about hearing stories from exceptional people that can help jumpstart and inspire you to create the life you want. One filled with wealth, wisdom, meaning, and purpose. And that starts with surrounding yourself with the right people. And the people I'm interviewing, I believe you'd want to spend a day with in a canoe. I'm your host, Nathan Mercereau. Well, I'm happy to welcome Tom Graney today to Day in a Canoe podcast. Tom is a senior wealth advisor and has joined us here at Planning Alternatives, and we're excited that he's part of the team. Tom resides in Naples, Florida, and in fact, we have opened up an office in Naples. So we're delighted to have Tom be available to our clients and contacts in Southwest Florida to continue to support Planning Alternatives and helping our clients live a fulfilled life. So welcome, Tom. Love for people to get to know you. What's kind of the quick story of Tom Graney?
Thanks, Nathan. Excited to be with Planning Alternatives. Find myself here in Naples in paradise, enjoying that. I've been in Naples probably about 23 years now. Grew up in Somerville, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston, to a blue-collar family, second generations of firemen. Had the opportunity to get into the financial services field right from college after working at a law firm. I saw an advertisement in the paper. My first stock I ever bought was Life, L-I-F-E. It was where I saw a commercial of a woman saying she's fallen and can't get up. And seeing that a company provided a solution for her, I decided to buy it, and that was probably my biggest win to date. After doing that and entering the financial services field, I knew this is what I wanted to do, is help people find solutions. I think the most important thing we can do is just find those solutions and help them identify their goals and objectives and match up their life plans with their investment plans.
Now, you're a seasoned financial services advisor, and we appreciate the talent that you're bringing to our team. What are some of the ways in your career that you've seen maybe some of the needs that people have that bubble up where they might need some more personalized counsel?
Well, in my 30 years, the biggest thing I've seen is what not to do. So in letting clients and actually listening to what their thoughts are and what they're trying to accomplish. I think some of the needs that we've seen is not just retirement planning, but actually looking at understanding, having a better understanding of what they own and how they own it, and how does that apply to their life plan as they're thinking about what their goals and objectives might be, understanding that those can change. I think one of the things that a lot of financial institutions make the mistake of is not being flexible. So I think what I want to bring to Planning Alternatives is that flexibility to adjust. We have very specific needs that can change. Some clients will follow through the entire life change as they're starting and they're working a new position. They might be a mid-level executive and go on to be a senior executive. And then at that point in time, how do we start to make that transition? What can we offer to help them? And I think the biggest thing is listening and starting to identify where and what they should be thinking about doing in order to attain some of those goals.
Now, you mentioned executives, and we work with a lot of executives as we do with a number of professions. But as people have either or maybe they're thinking about making a transition to retirement, or they're in retirement, what are some of the maybe tactical things that need to be on people's radar when they think about navigating that?
And their comfort level for diversifying, because a lot of the times our clients can, especially when they're executives, they tend to accumulate wealth in a small, within one industry. And maybe they've gained it through their company stock. So identifying where, when, and how to maybe diversify that and start to think about what's the best way to do that to not only meet their personal needs for their family, but how do we start looking at how can we apply this to their philanthropic goals, and what kind of things what kind of benefit can we add by showing them the best shares to maybe give away versus to sell. I think that's a great service to be able to add, but I've also seen a lot of mistakes over the years in selling the wrong shares or kind of sticking to a rigid platform of you can only have 5% of one stock and in order to be diversified.
I know the topic of wealth is a challenging one, even within families. So I know we work with a number of our families around having conversations and such and looking at their estate plan. What are some of the things that you've seen in the area of working together as a family that maybe does work, or you got to be careful about it as well?
Clients are much more open now to allowing us to talk to their entire family. I go back when I first started in this industry, and some of the mistakes I made was not listening or making assumptions. I think the problem with some of the younger advisors is we tend to assume things, assume what a client's trying to accomplish, or ignoring the fact that we work with a lot of widows, and we don't want to ignore the fact that their spouses or widowers, the spouse a lot of the times has made those decisions, done a great job growing the assets and growing the wealth, but then all of a sudden they're being told they have to change their plan entirely. And that's a very emotional thing, especially when the spouse has been so successful. So how do we listen and make sure that we're learning about what the family needs are, as well as what's their investment philosophy? It doesn't have to be a wholesale change. If we listen, we can actually. I know in my career, my 30 years, I can guarantee that I've always been able to improve a plan as long as I listen to what the goals and objectives are. But again, we don't want to jump in too quickly. And the biggest mistake that's made in our industry is we tell versus we don't listen enough.
You bring up a great point about families and some of the dynamics within the family unit around maybe one spouse is more interested and maybe more responsible around finances in terms of taking care of all the details and bills and all the financial details. And then if something were to happen to that spouse, it leaves the survivor in a really challenging spot, as well as family members. And I know that we've had instances, and I'm sure you've seen this over your career, where someone, after a spouse passes, they just don't know where everything is, or how to access information, or where passwords were stored, or how accounts were set up. So one of the things at Planning Alternatives we do is to facilitate what we call family conversations. And we'll actually go through the scenarios of if something happens to a loved one, like a parent, whether it's incapacity or even a death, what does that mean to the surviving family member, and as well as the extended family? And those conversations, while they can be challenging, are so important because it really brings clarity to things. And it's better to have these conversations while everyone's at a table looking for constructive outcomes than to be put into a situation where there's a lot of stress and if it's a passing, you're grieving and you're trying to figure out a lot of these things, which may not, just under a stressful environment seem easy at all. So I think this is a whole topic that we definitely want to expand.
And I think the most successful clients are going to be the ones that actually include not only the spouses, but the kids or their trusted advisors. So sometimes those trusted advisors will include attorneys and CPAs that join us for this meeting. But more importantly is understanding what your documents say and who you've entrusted to make decisions for you. Because having my 30 years here in Florida and in the South, especially in the Naples area, what I've come to see is I'm not worried about our clients' estate plan as much of them passing away. I'm more worried about while they're alive. The biggest thing is we're clients and we're all living longer. And at some point in time, there might be some areas or some time periods where we could be incapacitated. I like to share the story when I was 40 at my former company. I almost died at my desk. Long story, but the bottom line is my wife all of a sudden had to step in and understand how to pay the bills and understand how our investments worked to make sure she didn't make a bad decision or a rushed decision. And that goes back to during the family conversation, understanding what the philosophy is of the person making the decisions at the time. What do they believe? How do they believe? We're seeing very good success with when the spouses or the parents, even for the kids, leave a letter of legacy of what they're trying to accomplish, why they saved, and why they made the decisions they did. But going back to understanding documents, we'll often review documents that have defunct banks listed as corporate trustees, or there hasn't been a conversation with the survivors or the potential survivors with that trustee. Huge error and mistake is when something happens to the parents and their kids are assigned to a corporate trustee structure that they don't understand and frankly don't have a relationship with them. All of a sudden, they're being dictated to versus having that conversation, meeting their needs, goals, and understanding what they're trying to accomplish. We do that through not only reviewing documents, but having a clear process where we use financial planning software such as eMoney to actually understand your entire situation and be able to work with you to have that family conversation and explain roles and responsibilities.
That's excellent. There's so many things going on with financial planning and within a family dynamic. And if COVID has pointed out anything specifically, the obvious is to make sure that all of our personal financial affairs are in order. And it's best to do that when everyone's available and available for a productive conversation. Tom, any you mentioned 30 years in the industry. Any takeaways on lessons learned, or even maybe people that influenced you?
And the biggest thing, I was influenced by my former company's senior management and executives, and what they always did was do the right thing for the client. Don't try to ignore the noise and make sure you're listening. If you're not listening, you're telling, and you don't want to tell. I think if I'm a client now, I'm actually, if I'm being told what to do versus having a conversation of the person understanding, I think you should run the other way. And I really look forward at playing alternatives to kind of going through these life changes and life cycles. I think it's a lot of fun. I look forward to learning from our clients. I've learned so much through the years that each day has been a new opportunity to kind of understand better of not only for the client that's in front of us and telling us their situation, but understanding, this is our role is to be able to adjust, change, and make sure that we're giving ideas and listening, but also making sure we have the tools to give that successful solution.
Well, Tom, I'm excited that you're on our team. We're excited about the opening of our Naples office and you being there to support our clients and work with our various contacts in Florida. And I'm glad that our paths crossed. It was serendipitous that we met each other, but here we are in the metaphorical canoe, and glad you're in the canoe with us.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to my next 30 years.
Sounds great. Thank you for listening and tuning in to A Day in a Canoe. We are thrilled to have you as part of our community. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and share it with your friends and loved ones. You can always get more information at dayinacanoe.com. We'll see you next time.